Hey, Black Paper and Cloth, Felicia here. How are you? I am just here to do like a really quick video on some denims that I've dropped in my shop, Black Paper and Cloth, shop blackpaperandcloth.com. And what I really love about these denims, they're actually from my own personal collection, or a few of them are from my personal collection that I have like redone. And I love a redone jean, and and that's what I do with my own jeans. And I have a few that I'm like, oh, these would be so cool. Let me sell them actually, so that other people can have some really cool redone jeans. So let me just give you a really quick personal history about me and denim. Growing up, like when I was a little kid, I really loved style. I'm 52. I was born in 1970. And so I was obviously a kid in the 70s. And my favorite look during the 70s, actually throughout my entire life, are bell-bottom jeans or wide leg jeans or anything or flare. But as a kid, oh my gosh, I always loved. I asked my mom, I remember like 4 or 5 and 6 asking for bell-bottom jeans. I always wore clogs, not always, but for the most part wore clogs when it was casual kind of thing. And I was very specific. Oh, and the really cool kind of not, I'm gonna say fitted, because it was, it wasn't like oversized or anything, but it was a really cool top, maybe with like top stitching. I remember this particular top because I loved it. And I had to make sure that the bell fit over the clog and was floor length. That's the only way. That was the only way I was going to wear my bell bottoms then. That is the way that I wear my bell bottoms now. When the 80s hit, and I went to Catholic school, so I wore uniforms every day to school. But when the 80s hit, denim just took, in my opinion, a dive. I hated acid wash. I couldn't stand that wash. And I didn't like the fit of the jeans. I didn't like the way they were styled. If I remember correctly, like they were pleated in the front with the acid wash, and acid wash is sometimes just overdone. And they had that kind of baggy tapered leg. Couldn't stand that. Couldn't stand it. And I didn't wear jeans. In fact, the jeans I would wear, and I didn't have a lot, were like more like straight leg jeans, and of course, and really nice deep indigo blue. And a lot of my peers, they're like, they would laugh and say, "Oh my God, you're out of style." I'm like, no, I'm in tasteful style. Acid wash is horrid, But I did not wear a lot of jeans. I wasn't really into the denim scene in the 80s, nor even really in the 90s. It wasn't until, gosh, and I actually didn't own any jeans because I just didn't like the fit. I wore dress trousers, especially at the time, by 1991, I was like fully, well, no, let me back up. When I was in high school and college, I worked, the after school jobs. I worked at Crate and Barrel. I worked at Marshall Fields. In college, I worked at Lord and Taylor, and I really loved dressing up. When I became 12, I started making my clothes because, the fashions for young kids and middle schoolers really wasn't what I liked. I looked at Teen Vogue. I looked at Vogue. I really just like saturated myself in just the beauty of dressing. And my grandmother, she sewed clothes, and I learned from her she was a self-made designer, a self-taught designer, and had her businesses in tailoring and so on. And, God pardon me, I'm sweating. Menopause, hot flash, so if you see me glistening, this is why. And I decided at 12, I'm making my own clothes. And I did. And I have been sewing avidly until my darling son was born 10 years ago, and then I kind of put a pause on he's out here making, see, and then I kind of stopped sewing because I just really ran out of time. But I did not, I wasn't into jeans, and I was into beautiful tailoring. And even where I worked, I wanted to work in places that I could dress up. Hence, like, well, Crate and Barrel was more casual, but still kind of, chic and stylish. Lord and Taylor and Marshall Fields, now called Macy's, or no, now it's Macy's, but I'm gonna still call it Marshall Fields, and because grew up in Chicago. Um, it was, I loved dressing up. I love using my employee discount and um, getting the clothes that I didn't buy. Or let me back up, getting these shoes and handbags and some accessories that I didn't make because I couldn't make shoes. I would buy because I made my clothes. I was dressed. I was dressed. Anyway, I loved it. So by the time so it was kind of mid 90s, and the style of denim that was coming out at that time were like flares, like a skinny flare, or a kind of straight leg jean. What was challenging though were the fits, because it was like the real low slung and real low slung, and couldn't really stand that. But what resurrected my interest in jeans were a pair that I bought. Oh, where was it? It was in the 900 North Michigan Avenue building where Bloomingdale's is. Oh, Mark Shale. It was Mark Shale. I bought a pair of flare jeans. They made, now I should have kept them, but I couldn't fit them now anyway. I couldn't fit them now. But they were a skinny flare. Yeah, skinny flare. But the way they made them, and they had a bit of stretch, the way they made them actually fit a curvy figure so well. It didn't have a gape, or when you bent down, like sit down, it didn't go down, because again, remember, low slung was in, butt cracks were showing, and girls were wearing, women were wearing like the crop and the midriff and all this kind of stuff. It was just, that was actually, to me, a really challenging period for denim. I'm tired of seeing people's belly buttons and whatever, and butt cracks and all this type. Oh, and then that was when the thongs just took over and whatever, tired of seeing all that, right? So, but those jeans came up just right. And then I though I love like a mid-rise or not real deep low slung, but it was, the proportion was made where it went high and then low, and they were just they fit really well. Anyway, I got a bit larger, so I couldn't really wear those. At the time I gave them away. I had them for about 10 years at the time and had to give them away. Then I went to a Levi's and bought 2 pairs of amazing bell bottoms. Amazing bell bottoms. I still have them. I will not give those away. I cannot fit them. I think they were 24, waist size 24. I'm really not that anymore. But I will not give those away. And then that started this kind of going into the 2000s, you saw this shift from like the flare and low slungs to like just a slightly higher waist, still a mid-rise, jean, but this kind of explosion in like flares and bell bottoms. Now for me, bell bottoms and flares never went out of style. I used to make wide leg pants when people were really into tapered stuff, like baggy and whatever, and folks were laughing at me, I oh my God, it's so funny. But I loved it. I love just being like ahead of fashion, like by years. I'm not talking by months. I'm talking about by years, like 5 to 10 years ahead, and then everyone else is just catching up, right? So, and what I love though about the jeans that I would buy, let me back up. What I didn't like about the jeans that I would buy would be the factory finish hems. Couldn't stand those because, with jeans, there should be, depending upon the style, and again, if we're talking about flares and bell bottoms, there should be a flow. There should be a way that they just have their own personality, and the way you walk down the street, they should just have a really nice flow. When we moved into like the skinny leg, again, I would remove the factory um, uh, hemline, because those, even if they were a straight leg or a skinny, they had to have, like, I didn't want the jean to look too perfect, right? I wanted them to look very comfortable, very relaxed. I was, cut off the factory finished hem. Then I want to say, yeah, as we continue to progress in the 2000s, um, straight leg, or boy fit, or or girlfriend fit jeans started coming into the scene, and a little wider cut. And now, of course, we have like a huge range of different jeans. But I would just cut the bottoms and like actually crop my jeans. It wasn't a thing. I want to say, when did I start cropping my jeans? Probably in 2012. Let's see, we're in 2022. So maybe 10 years ago, I was cropping my jeans. And I remember going to, I had my little kitten heel boots, and I wear my jeans, and I have my leather jacket, and I have my leather bag, and I'm going into Bloomingdale's, into the shoe department. Again, I was still sewing at that time, and the only thing I would really buy would be handbags and shoes. I made my own scarves because I picked up knitting. I would make my own hats because whether they're knit or like wool and wool lined, fedoras and stuff, I made everything. I even made some like cloth totes and leather totes and things. I made a lot of my things. But anyway, I walked in, and the salesperson at the store, he said, "Oh my goodness, those are so cool. Where'd you get them?" I'm like, "Oh, I just bought these jeans. I think I bought them at the time, probably Madewell, which had and still have really good fitting jeans. Yeah, I think it was Madewell." And I said, "Oh, I just, and I just cut off the bottom. You could do that." I told him, "You could do that too. Just crop it, and there you go. And wash the jeans so you have a little fray and keep it going." And it was like revolutionary, right? Of course, now everybody, and I was, doing little different details to it to just kind of relax it and make it casual, and just kind of, make them sometimes destroyed, whatever. Now they're so mainstream, like everybody's doing it, right? Every designer, almost every whatever. And that's great. I love it, because it's just, to me, it just gives individual character, right? So I'm going to show you, I had to give you all of that context to show you the jeans that I have redone, and things that some of them are from my personal collection that I'm selling. Others I've sourced and redid them. Again, and here's my favorite thing, upcycling. So going, whether it's from my own closet and I'm kind of purging, or I go to a Goodwill or whatever, or even just, a store that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta get." And redo those jeans so that they have character. So I'm going to show you a few of the samples that I have, and they're also on my site. So I will be back.